They're focusing on the, so the process versus outcome. Sure, it's good to have good outcome goals, but it's really important that you focus in on the process as well. I like to say just find that balance. If it's just outcome, then the nitty-gritty details, the next step, the the purpose of what you're doing gets a little bit lost. And sure, if it's just process, then maybe you don't have like a true North Star. You don't have direction as much. So you need an outcome goal and you need process goals as well. A good balance of each is what we're looking for. Okay, growth mindset. Growth mindset is when you're focused on your effort, you're focused on your improvement, you're focused on really something incremental, consistent steps and improvement. A fixed mindset is when you just think things are going to be how they are and there's not a lot that you can do about it. So a fixed mindset is basically if you think that how good you're going to be at wrestling or anything is based off of natural skills, you can't change it. If you have a fixed mindset, it wouldn't make sense for you to need to do push-ups, right? Because either you're good enough or you're not. It wouldn't make sense for you to run harder or work harder in practice because either you're good enough or you're not. If you have a growth mindset, effort, strategy, those things are going to make the biggest difference, right? So you go into practice saying the guy who puts in the most effort is eventually going to win out. The guy who has the best strategy is eventually going to find success. That will be a growth mindset. Quick question. So can someone give me an example of when they can have a growth mindset, how they could take a growth mindset towards something they're doing? Like give me an example of someone with a fixed mindset, someone with a growth mindset. Based on what you're seeing here in the graphics or in this other document as well.
I had a kid the other day. I was suggesting a position for him to improve on, and he said, "I've been wrestling for this long already. You know, why change it now?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which to me sounds like a fixed mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. A fixed mindset is when you think any kind of changes in what you're doing won't have an impact. All right. So a fixed mindset is when you think skills are just innate. Either you have it or you don't. It connects to that long-term, long debate in psychology about nature versus nurture. Like, can things that happen in your life impact and change you? Or is it just genetics? Is it just the skills you have? If you think it's just genetics, then why try harder, right? Why make adjustments? If you think that it's all about the actions and activities and strategies, then you're more likely to be all brought into giving more effort. So the second graphic here, where it says mindset matters under number 3, you can see how just changing a slight word in your thought process can impact all of your actions. So instead of thinking, I can't do it, something goes wrong, you don't get a takedown. Instead of thinking, I can't do it, maybe tell yourself, I can't do it yet. Just adding that hasn't happened yet changes, or I'm on track. So I have some of the steps, but not all of them. Instead of thinking, I made a mistake, you can just reword that and say, mistakes help me learn. Right now you have a growth mindset. If you're just looking at it from the mistake side of it, I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills here. I'm in the learning phase, right? Instead of thinking I'm a natural. So even when you are successful, you don't want to get too lost in that I'm just successful because I'm natural at it. You want to think of it from, I have been improving from practice, or I can still improve from more practice. So that's a fixed mindset, or that's a growth mindset. When you're thinking more so, how can I continue to improve? All right, so this fourth point here about self-regulation, this is where a lot of my research lies. going into sports, there may be 3 different buckets that you can put all your activity into. Things you do before you compete, things you do during competition, and things you do after competition. So if you're a wrestler, you compete, you do that middle piece, right? You're out there. Some people do it better than others, right? Some people compete better, and there's some strategies and whatnot that you can incorporate during practice or during competition. For example, this performance monitoring. So some people are thinking about exactly what's going on and figuring things out a little bit better than others. I was watching Michael Jordan's Last Dance last night, and in that final game 6, he said when he was coming up the court, or when Malone was coming up the court, he knew he needed to get that steal, right? He knew exactly where Malone was going to be, he knew exactly where a lot of defense was going to be. He knew the necessary move. And when he got the final rebound to go back up the court to make the game-winning shot, he knew exactly what look he was going to get. Even his teammates seemed to know exactly what he was going to do. Just having that sense of what's likely to come next, right? Because you're monitoring everything that's happening, and now you're able to make an adjustment and change your game plan and make it in line with what's going on. So that's the middle piece, the performance monitoring. Forethought, before competition, there are a ton of different strategies that we do, right? We practice, we make a game plan, we have all kinds of strategies. Some people are doing that way better than others, right? Putting together a better game plan for their match. For example, you think about an NCAA tournament. A lot of guys are watching a ton of film or just putting together specific game plans for another wrestler. So a lot of things you can do there. The third piece, the self-evaluation, self-reflection. This is where I think the best athletes separate themselves from the not so great athletes, because they'll go back after a match and say, all right, what's anything I can do differently to improve? Where someone else is saying, you know what, if I won, I did well. And if I lost, I didn't. And usually it's not that simple. Either you go back and you evaluate and you make adjustments, or you don't. All right. So it's really important then to take those steps, figure out where exactly did I go wrong. Even when you won a match, there are likely things that you could improve on. And when you didn't win, there's still things to improve on, but there are also things that you did correctly as well. So digging into that evaluation piece, figuring out how you can improve, is an important part of self-regulation. So I like to say you can have an idea of how competitive an athlete can become by their ability to self-regulate. So as a coach, one thing you want to be doing is teaching them to regulate, monitor, understand themselves. Think about the best athletes, the Peyton Mannings, the Michael Jordans, the Aaron Rodgers. It's their self-regulation. It's their ability to understand and kind of coach themselves and know how to make a decision. So as a coach, you want to be teaching them to lead themselves in a sense, in some aspects, not just teaching them the strategies. It's almost like that analogy. You could give someone a fish, or you could teach them how to fish. You want to get them to the point where they're able to monitor everything, like they're able to be the quarterback of their own life. All right. This last piece here, PERMA. This doesn't have as strong a connection to wrestling and sports as the first few, but it's really big for well-being. And I just feel if I was going to talk to you all, I couldn't leave this out because it's had a huge impact on my life, and it's very helpful in psychology. So PERMA is an acronym created by Marty Seligman. He's one of the first people to study positive psychology. And he basically wanted to know what makes people happy. How come you can have a billionaire who's sad and a poor person or a homeless person who's happy and thriving? So he did a lot of research on like what leads people to that high level of well-being. How do they get there? And these things popped up: purpose, engagement, relationship, meaning, achievement, or accomplishments. One thing he discovered is that after about, I think it was $60,000 when he did this research, maybe $75,000 in the inflation that money is at now. But after you reach that threshold, there's no longer a correlation between financial how much money you have, and how happy you are. There's none at all once you just consider people over $75,000. So basically what he's saying is if you have that much money, what's causing your lack of well-being or whatnot has nothing to do with money. It has to do with maybe other things going on. And these are the other things that he figured out are playing the role. Do you have a purpose? Are you thriving into your purpose? Are you finding ways to be more engaged with your purpose? You have engagement. So at your job or with your family or with your friends, are you in the moment? Are you able to build strong connections with them? An engagement piece leads right into relationships. Do you have thriving relationships, whether it's with your family, friends, people you work with, and whatnot? And meaning, are you able to come and have a meaning and have kind of connecting back to purpose? Are you able to feel that you can make sense of what's going on around you? And then this last piece, accomplishments and achievements, focusing in on achieving things that are important to you. If you have something out there that you really value, making sure that you're pursuing it. So these are the main pieces of sports psychology and psychology that I wanted to address with you all today. I know I spit through it a little bit because it could be a little robust, but I'd love to answer any questions if there was anything that stuck out. And then obviously you all have these graphics and these notes. You can come back to it and use it. And Voss has my contact. So if you ever need anything from me later, feel free to reach out. I'm going to always be in you guys' corner. So any questions or anything for now?
Coach, as a team, I'm looking on the process versus outcome goals. Are there any like activities you do for goal setting that focus on the process, like as a team, or any sessions you do in practice that kind of get to that?
Yep, really good question. The short answer is that there are a ton. Like I could almost send you a few more pages about this. I could send you the lecture for the process versus outcome goals that we have. But just right off the bat, the first step with almost all of these theories is explaining how you can be impacted by both, right? So like you can almost talk to them like they're an adult. Like I would talk to you and say, hey, here are some pros and cons from having process goals. Here are some pros and cons from having outcome goals. So almost saying, hey, when you have outcome goals, it's good. It helps direct your actions. You know what direction to go in. But where it's wrong is that it puts a lot more pressure on you. Like for Alabama football, they say they never talk about championships. They just talk about executing the next play as best they can. So it shifts a little bit of that pressure off of you when you're not just thinking about just winning, and you're thinking about your shot, your setup, you're in the moment a little bit more. So you can kind of break down something like that. Like outcomes important, achievement focus is important, but it only works its best when you're able to take some of that steam off of it and just shift it to what's the next step. Because if you think about you're in a match, 1% of the time are you out there, are you actually like winning? As the clock is finishing up, that 1 second, all right, you're winning the match, getting your hand raised. The other 99% of the time, other 5 minutes and 59 seconds, you're just taking the next right step. So you almost need to have your mind more focused on that, right? The move that's next for you. So at times though, you might be more motivated by the outcome you want. Sometimes you're more motivated by the next step, right? You're in a jam. So I'd say when you aren't motivated by the outcome, think about the times you're in practice and you're like, I'm not even thinking about it. The stakes are far away. That's not motivating me. Try and shift your focus to the process. Try to shift to how much you like the space that you're in, how much you like your team, coaches, activities, push-ups, and whatnot. When you aren't motivated by the process, maybe it's just something about what you're doing, you just don't even like it. Shift to that like dream you have, and that might motivate and push you through a really grueling workout. So important thing is just that you have both. So first step is help them understand that both are important. And then second step is working them through setting those kinds of goals. So there's a worksheet basically that I have. It will say, hey, set 3 process goals for strength training, set 3 process goals for technique. So they know here are 3 pieces of technique that are really going to be critical. If I want to win states, I have to have and let them pick what they think they need. They probably know better than anyone else. Could be 3, could be 10, it could be more. But putting them in a situation, maybe they said 3 process goals for strength, 3 for speed, 3 for technique, 3 for nutrition, 3 for mindset. You get the point. So just putting them in a position where they understand the concepts and where they get to set these goals. Good question.
So with self-regulation, maybe focusing on self-evaluation, if you were to put yourself in a place of like as a high school coach or junior high coach, what are some ways in which you would promote that self-evaluation post-performance?
So in a sense, you could somewhat model it, right? So after a win or a loss, trying to shift that focus in the conversations you have with them from the win or loss to the, okay, what happened? Like, what do you think contributed to? Instead of like coming yelling, hey, you messed this up, you messed that up. That's not teaching them to evaluate. That's teaching them to maybe listen or get frustrated by what went wrong. But if you ask them what happened, they're being asked to focus in on what steps went right or wrong. So even if, let's say they do win a match, you see they made a ton of mistakes. What do you think you could have done better? Where do you think you have room for improvement, right? So ask questions that promote self-evaluation. Evaluate yourself, like model these things, right? You come back, say, all right, here's some things like as a bigger group or as a coach, or evaluate other wrestlers, maybe on trips, watch teams and ask them like, what do you think Kyle Snyder could have done better? So they can look at it from the perspective of even the very best out there make mistakes and they evaluate. So I think watch someone win a world title. Say, hey, what could they have done better? If they want to stay on top of the game forever, what could they need to improve on, right? So it becomes just a piece of like winning or losing. They can see it as this is a necessary step to improve or stay on top of your game or be your best self. And again, discussing that kind of theoretical perspective too. I dumbed it down a lot to fit an hour lecture into 2 minutes into this 15-minute presentation. So there's more to talk about it, but did that answer your question?
So along the same lines, with forethought then in preparation, I work with a lot of emotional girls. It sounds kind of sexist, so sorry about that. But a large piece of that is kind of getting them unhooked from the emotion as they go into preparation, or even, for the actual time in which they perform. And I suppose that's true for all genders, so I probably shouldn't even specify that. But maybe you could walk us through some ways in which you help kids become less emotional a little bit. I hear people say a lot, hey, they're loose, they're relaxed, they're not super stressed, take the stress off. But I haven't heard a whole lot of tools about how to do that exactly, other than lots of conversation. So give me the magic bullet.
I wish I had it, but I do think the more you can like make yourself at home. So I'll take this off with a little bit of a tangent. Some of the first sports psychologists were in the Soviet Union, and when it broke up, their research kind of fell through. And we don't have a lot of the details here in the States, but allegedly or apparently they would do 40 hours of mindset or self-regulation training a week in preparation for the Olympic Games in 1904 and 1908, really early on. But what they were saying is that you can control that like excitement. You can make yourself, so that feeling you have when you're about to like wrestle for the match that you care about the most in your life. And you can feel the adrenaline, you can feel the stadium shaking, you can hear 20,000 fans yelling and screaming. That feeling, like, oh my God, this really is it. Can you create that or not, right? A lot of people actually can. right? Like you can get yourself to that level of really high level excitement. With that being said, can you just turn it off when you want to, right? So how much control do you actually have over your level of excitement? Is it just if there's something exciting going on, you have to be excited? Or is it just you can just tell yourself, hey, be excited, stop being excited, be excited again, stop again. I do think you can train yourself to do that, and I think you actually should. So you say to them, look, it's let's say right before a really big match, you get really nervous. Try and get yourself nervous right before a practice whistle blows, right? Like try and feel those things. And I think we all do from time to time. Like when you're back home, maybe you take a walk, you plug in some music, and you just feel that adrenaline, like you're about to wrestle for a national title. Then it goes away, right? So see if you can make it happen a little bit more often. And when it happens, see if you can like stop it on a dime. So almost training yourself to control those emotions. Try and make yourself feel them. Try and make yourself not. The more you can do that, then the less you're controlled by them, and you can turn it on and off. So after you do that, let's say, I don't know, I'll just say once a week for a season. By the time the end of the season comes and you have that tournament and your emotions are like blailing out of control, you've been practicing just telling yourself, all right, this skill will be all right. It's how I usually feel. This is how I usually calm myself down. That kind of helps. And then I would say just playing more games, being more relaxed, making practices more similar to matches, making matches more similar to practice. So that when you are out there in front of thousands of people, you've been feeling similar to this. It's not a brand new kind of feel.
Can you expand on that last statement? Practice more similar to matches, vice versa.
Yep. So one thing I started to do my senior year, wear my headgear every single day, wear my singlet under my clothes every single day. Maybe even taking my shirt off, right? So you get that feel. I mean, even just the difference between you grab someone in practice and they got a t-shirt on, you're grabbing the shirt, right? Grab them in the match, you're grabbing their arm. There's no shirt, so now your inside control feels different. Or even something just like coaches yelling at you. So like at George Mason, we would do this sometimes where you're in the middle, you're wrestling, the team is yelling things, right? Coach is yelling things just to make you feel a little bit more what it would feel like. I was at a practice one time, instead of playing music, we played crowd noise. Just from the speakers, there was some recorded crowd noise and the sound. Every now and then the crowd just go ballistic. Sometimes it get pretty quiet. Sometimes you hear like a coach or something yelling. Sometimes you hear somebody's mom yelling, right? Or their sibling or brother or dad. So you can get creative. Those are some things off the top of my mind. But if you know at matches, maybe you like to wear like, I don't know, a nice pair of socks. Wear them some days in practice. Like try it that way sometimes. Same thing with matches. Try and make it more similar to practice. So there's kind of t-shirt you usually practice in. Wear a similar shirt or the same shirt on match day, right? Try and make the attires similar. Warm up with the same person. Do the same warm up. Great questions.
Yeah, other questions for the professor?
I just want to say, I think this is something that I know we had a group of seniors that really struggled with some of this mindset stuff. So this is like really applicable for our program. So good stuff. Appreciate you sharing.
Yeah. And you all have my contact. So any given time you can talk to me about it. I like to be supportive. I like to help you guys whenever I can. Me and Voss have worked together really, really well. So I'm happy to give back to what he's doing. Happy to help you all.
I had a quick question on the mindset, the fixed versus growth. Are there some, what are some practical approaches on how to introduce that and start integrating that in with high school age athletes and maybe even younger?
Yep. So when someone wins or loses, something goes right or wrong, what you say to them after that impacts it. So if let's say like Voss wins and I say, Voss, you're really good at wrestling, that's enforcing a little bit the natural skill set he has. Voss wins and I say, Voss, that was really good effort. That move you did, we did that like that knee pick, you did it right. You locked your hands correctly. You had your head and back straight up. That was excellent. Like the execution there was awesome. Or like the fight you had, that scramble, you were fighting through it. So putting the emphasis on like the effort, the strategy, and helping them understand. So you could explicitly tell them, people who find success here, watch Olympic finals and say, the reason this guy wins it is because he's got a really nice double leg. The setup is awesome. He's been working really hard on the hand fighting. That leg lace is tight as the technique can be there. Everything's to the T done correctly. And the effort is through the roof. That's why this person's winning. But if you just say like, that guy's really good, like he's too fast for everyone. If you tell the team consistently just natural things, then they're kind of like subconsciously soaking all that in. And that's developing how they think and why they think people win. So both ways, you can explicitly teach fixed and growth mindset, but you can also naturally emphasize incremental things, like things that they can work on that are helping them improve. So if you look at the graphic, if you focus on internal things, you're a little bit more likely to have growth mindset. You go focus on external things, things that are out of your control, the ref, the other team's coach, the guy you're wrestling, you can't impact that. So you're not going to think that you can change the fact that you're winning or losing if you think it's due to that. Even within the internal things, if you focus on like stable things, unchangeable things like speed, height, I don't know how long your arms are, things that you can't change. If you think those are the things that are deciding factors, then you're less likely to work on improvement. But if you focus on changeable things like how strong you are, your hand grip, your endurance, your mindset, your technique, I think you're more likely to improve effort and think, okay, more effort, more strategy can help me be more successful. So shifting that focus to more changeable things and less on unchangeable things helps grow that fix, or it helps you grow an incremental or growth mindset.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm. And again, we covered a half of semester worth of material, like 15 minutes. So you can like Google these concepts and you'll see similar kind of graphics and deeper explanations. It just might take you a half a semester to really like get it all down that well. But I think this is, you guys are at an awesome place to start. You have some things to work with, and you have my contact if you ever want to discuss it more in depth.
Good. Is there any last questions anyone's been holding in? Okay. Thank you, Canaan. Really appreciate it. We're gonna jump into a quick Bible study here. Feel free to stick around if you want. You can take off if you've got to get back out to the beach. You know what? Whatever you want to do. But
Well, I just want to say thank you all for having me here. I am really appreciative to have opportunities to get back. It just means a lot to me. I have strong faith myself, and I really respect that you all are doing this, getting up this early, doing Bible study as well. I do still have a packed day. We're supposed to go see the Mayan ruins later today. So really looking forward to that. And I got to kind of get myself together there. So I'm going to have to hop off, but can't say enough how much I appreciate what Voss is doing and what you all are doing, working to improve athletes' lives. And I want to be a resource. So if you ever need anything, if there's ever anything that I can do to help, just let me know. I'll be phone call away.
Thank you.
Thanks.
yeah, thanks, Canaan. Yeah, grab a Bible. I know a couple guys have said that they might have to split out early. That's fine.
Take care, guys.